Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units in real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So I just want to give an update on my 50 unit apartment complex that is project based in Enid, Oklahoma. So the brokers have been reaching out to me every single week, and it's interesting because I sense a sign of desperation from these brokers. Because normally, when I was buying back during COVID, brokers don't even pick up your phone when you call them, but now they're calling me every week, right? So I talked to their finance guy, and he gave me great terms to do a cash out refinance on my 26 unit, where I could pull out about maybe $1.1 million at I think, was it 30% or 65 to 60% or 65 or 70% cash out refinance. So it gives me my 26 unit apartment value at about $1.7 million. So I could pull out $1.1 million, pay off the loan of $400,000. I had $700,000 left, and I could use that as a down payment. So, I not really motivated by this deal for many reasons. Number one, well, I'm about to get married. So, like, obviously, focusing on that. Number two is that it's not really a amazing deal, right? It's like not like it's a base hit, maybe not like a home run deal, like my 26 unit. So I'm not like super excited by that because, for me, I don't want to give up my 26 unit. If I do a cash out refinance on that, I'm gonna have a bigger loan. It's not going to cash flow as much. Take that money, go buy another apartment complex that doesn't cash flow as much. So, I told that to the finance guy, and I just said, hey, look, I'm not motivated by um, it's not going to improve my quality of life. I'm busy in my personal life. And he was just like, well, like, just make an offer that makes sense for you. And I've always been big on that with my students, right? Just make an offer that makes sense for you. And I just said, honestly, like, I underwrote this deal and my best offer is $1.4 million. And the current owner bought it for 2.2. So, I think we're willing to take a $800,000 loss. And he just said, you know what? Just talk to the lead guy, John. Just throw it out there and then see what happens. So I said, okay, whatever. Right. So I just said, okay, let me call John. Called John and was just like, hey, sorry, I haven't been as responsive, busy, planning wedding and all this stuff. But, would like to make an offer, but I don't want to waste your time. So I'm just going to tell you what the offer is. And you tell me if you want me to submit a letter of intent or an LOI. So I said, all right, the NOI of this property is not that great. The income is kind of maximized, or at least I thought it was. So it's kind of getting about $34,000 a month. But what kind of kills this deal is that the expenses are so high on this deal because it's a project-based Section 8. And with project-based Section 8, you have to hire a specific property manager, which costs about $50,000 a year. On top of that, you're paying them a property management fee. So it's almost like $70,000 a year just to property management, which is very high. And you have to use certain property managers for project-based Section 8. So for me, I just initially thought, okay, this income isn't that great in this property. But John, he said, no, like, so what you want to do for this deal, and he's done it for other deals, is you want to convert it from a project-based Section 8 to a voucher-based Section 8. And I was just like, well, what's the difference? I didn't know there was a difference. So apparently with project-based Section 8, basically the whole building is Section 8, right? It's a project. That's the term while I live in the projects. So the whole building is project-based, and with Section 8, like basically the whole area is Section 8. And with project-based, you have to hire specific property managers, and all your tenants are going to be Section 8, and you pre-negotiate, rents will be for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and you have very rigorous annual inspections. Like, I saw the inspection report for project-based, and it was like, I think 100 pages. And what they do is they look at the inside of the unit and the outside of the unit, and they nitpick every single thing, right? So because of that, there's so many repairs that need to be made. You're at the mercy of the government. And, that's why the expenses are high, because you have to hire this property manager approved by project-based Section 8. You have to pay them $50,000 plus property management. Plus you have these rigorous annual inspections. So that's why the NOI on this deal was $70,000. So if you give a nice 8 cap, this is like worth not that much money, right? So 70,000 divided by 8 cap, I don't even know what that is, but maybe like $890,000. So I just said, okay, well, let me run the numbers and make an offer that makes sense for me. So what I basically did was, okay, this current owner, they have a full-time handyman, which I don't think you need. And maybe you do need it because Section 8 or project-based Section 8 is so challenging that you doing constant repairs. So I just said, okay, well, if I get rid of this full-time handyman, that's gonna save me $50,000. So let me add $50,000 to the NOI. So I gave them an NOI of $120,000. Divide that by 8 cap, I came out with my $1.4 million offer. And that's what I told John. I just said, hey, I have the NOI right now at 120K. I gave additional $50,000 because I think I can save money with the handyman. And I did 8 cap. And I think 8 cap's pretty reasonable because my 20 unit, which is 3 miles away, got a 10 cap. It's older. This one's newer. So I gave it an 8 cap. So I said, okay, $1.4 million. And I just said, would the owner even accept that? If so, I'll write an offer. If not, or an LOI. If not, I don't want to waste our time. And he just said, honestly, the owner's not gonna go for that. Maybe not desperate enough yet. And he said he wants something at least with a 2 in front of it. So, probably low end was like 2 million, right? Bought for 2.2. And then John said, well, what you want to do with this deal? This is a sign of a good broker. So I really respect, SAB Capital and John. They actually are very pleasant to work with and actually give value to me. They taught me a lot. They helped me find financing. They helped me structure the deal. So that's how a firm should be. So even if this deal doesn't work out with them, I want to be in touch with them because if they get other deals in Oklahoma, I want to work with these guys because they're much easier to work with and they're teaching me. That's the sign of a good broker is they should be teaching me and helping me. So John said, hey, this is the play you want to do. So you want to convert this from a project-based Section 8 to a voucher Section 8. And I didn't know the difference. So project-based, once again, sorry I'm repeating myself, but project-based is the whole building is Section 8. And usually when you're a project-based Section 8, it's more enticing for developers because they give you very favorable terms, loan terms, to develop the building. But then once you've finished developing the building, the management and asset management with project-based is not favorable because you're forced to use their property manager. You're forced to undergo rigorous project-based Section 8 annual inspections that look at the inside and outside. So it's just very intense, right? And then the rents that you get for project-based Section 8 isn't as high compared to voucher-based Section 8. So you're hit multiple ways. Number one, your expenses are higher because you have to pay a property manager. You have to undergo rigorous Section 8 inspections. So your expenses are high. And number two is your income is lower, right? Because the rates for project-based Section 8 is lower compared to voucher-based. So if I convert this to voucher-based, so what you have to do is I have to cancel the contract, right? And at that point, I would want to convert, let's say there's 45 out of 50 tenants there. I want to convert those 45 project-based tenants over to voucher-based. And these are all Section 8 tenants, right? So whether it's voucher-based or project-based, it's slight nuances. But with voucher-based, I would basically go up to them and say, hey, I want you to stay, but if you want to stay, you have to get a Section 8 voucher, and then, we'll do the paperwork. So, but the downside of this is if I cancel the project, they have an option now. They could either A, convert to voucher and stay, or B, they can say, you know what, I want to go somewhere else because I can go somewhere else now because I have a voucher, right? So, but with the voucher-based Section 8, the rents were significantly higher. So you literally can just Google fair market rents, Section 8. You choose your state, you choose your county. You can see what the fair market rents are for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. So I took kind of the maximum rents. It's public information, right? So if I were to convert from project-based to voucher-based, with project-based, I'm getting about let's just call it $35,000 a month. And my expenses are high. With voucher-based, low end, I could get $45,000 a month, right? Low end. Higher end, maximum rents would be $50,000 a month, right? So at that point, That's huge potential of income, right? And just for converting from project-based to voucher-based. So this is a different value add strategy for me. So like literally, if I bought this 50 unit, I have to basically convert from project-based to voucher-based. And hopefully I don't lose all my tenants, right? Like let's just say I can keep like 40 out of 45, and I'm getting higher rents, and then I can at that point I could bring in normal tenants, or I can bring in additional Section 8 tenants, right? Because with voucher based, the whole apartment isn't Section 8. You could pick and choose, right? I can have 40 Section 8, 10 non Section 8, right? Or I can have all 50 Section 8. But if Section 8 truly pays like $980 for a 2-bedroom, $1,200 for a 3-bedroom, and I think $800 for a 1-bedroom, like that's really high rents for Enid, Oklahoma. My 20 unit only gets about $550 to $600. So that's very nice rents. So this deal, if I'm able to do that, so if I go from project to voucher, I have the potential to go from 35K a month to 45K to 50K, right? So that's $10 to $15,000 a more of income a month. On top of that, I'm not forced to use a property manager anymore. I just get to pay 8%, or maybe I get a full-time property manager, so I just pay the $50,000 instead of 70. I can save $20,000 there. And the voucher-based Section 8, I don't think they focus as much on the entire building. For project-based, they're making you repair the exterior, right? And the interior. But I think with voucher-based, they're just looking at the interior of the unit itself to make sure it's livable and functional. And obviously the outside can't be like a slumlord, right? But it's not as rigorous. Like I saw the project-based unit-based inspection, like even this little like minor like wear and tear, they made you touch it up or they made you fix it. Even if it's like one piece of wood on the side was like kind of like rotting, they make you replace that. But I think with voucher-based, as long as the inside is decent, they're not going to make you replace it, or they're not going to focus much on the outside. So the Section 8 voucher-based inspections will be a lot easier too. So I just said, all right. So, and I ran the numbers. So let's just say I think I did it at, I did maximum. So I did 50,000 times 12, which is $600,000. And I took 90% for occupancy, average occupancy. So I'm going to average about 90% based on the market. And I took whatever that number was. I assumed my expense ratio is 55%. And I wish I knew the number on top of my head, but you divide that by an 8 cap. I have the valuation about 3 million to 3.1 million, right? And so that's high end. So my high end pro forma is going to be about $3 million. I like to be more conservative. So let's say I don't get the maximum rents in Enid. So I'm going to assume 45K a month is my pro forma income, right? Because I want to see different scenarios. So I took 45K, times that by 12, and then I'm going to times that by 0.9, because I'm assuming 90% occupancy, and then once again, times it by 0.45, because I'm assuming a 55% expense ratio. And then whatever my NOI was, I divide that by an 8 cap, and the value is about $2.4 million. So now, like, you can kind of work backwards, right? So, if I think it's going to be worth $2.8 million, I want to times that by 0.7. What is that? I think that's roughly around, I should have done the math ahead of time. But like, anyways, like whatever that looks like, that's kind of like how you do the perfect BRRRR, right? Is you do 70%, and that's how you do the perfect BRRRR. So for me, I'm just like, all right, you never want to pay on a property based on pro forma, right? Like for me, I always want to pay based on actuals, right? So I have at 1.4, I think he wants 2 million. So maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle at 1.7, right? So for me, let's just say for sake of this example, I was able to get for like 1.7. Like we met in the middle. I want 1.4, he wants a 1.2 million. And basically, for me, I take over the property, cancel the project-based contract, convert from project to voucher, and hopefully don't lose everybody, right? So that's the risk I'm taking. And then number 2 is I want to know what the vouchers will be for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. So that's why right now they're talking to Section 8 for Enid to see, okay, if we convert from project to voucher, what can I get for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? Because I see it online, right? I know the potential could be 45K to 50K, but I want to know actually what it looks like because I'm taking on this risk. So if that's truly the case, if I can truly get this deal at $1.7 million, and truly the rents could be 45K to 50K a month, and I can lower my expenses, I could make about $1 million to $1.5 million in equity in this deal, right? Like I can go from about 1.7 to, let's say 2.8 is low end. That's a $1.1 million of equity I forced. I could do a cash out refinance, pull all the money in the deal, have $0 in the deal, right? Or if it's worth $3 million, I could potentially make about $1.3 million on this deal, right? So, but like you said, that's best case scenario. So what are the risks that I'm taking for this deal? So for me, not much major renovation is what I anticipate. It's apartments maybe 20, 25 years old. It's newer. So that's not a risk. Another risk I'm taking is, well, who knows what Section 8 is going to happen. What's going to happen with Section 8, right? They could cancel vouchers, not give as much money. So that's a huge risk, right? That's a risk that I'd be assuming. Another risk is, well, who knows? If I convert from project-based to voucher-based, maybe no one wants to live there. And I might go from occupancy of 90% to 50%. At that point, I'm losing a lot of money, right, on the deal. I'm cash flow negative. And now I have to rent out this apartment aggressively to get it filled up. So that's another risk, right? And then another risk is just managing the expenses. Maybe if I go from project-based to voucher-based, maybe Section 8 is still just difficult in that area, right? It varies. If they're still difficult, my expenses will still be high. So these are all the risks that I'm assuming, right? So because of that, I want to make sure I buy this deal right. So you make your money in the buy, right? You want to buy at today's numbers, right? So even me, if I offer 1.7, that's overpaying on the property. But if I'm confident I can make it worth 2.8 to $3 million, I'll do it. But if I'm not confident I can get to 2.8 or $3 million, and maybe I can only get to like $2 million, then 1.7 is overpaying. So if I think I can only get to $2 million conservatively, and I want to do the perfect burr, take 70% of that, that's 1.4 is my offer, right? So the seller's going to sell us for $800,000 loss on the deal. So, for me, I'm in no rush. So I'm in no rush. And the brokers know I have the money, I can take down the deal. But that's just kind of my thought process, right? Like, that's why you really have to stay firm in your numbers and not buy real estate in desperation. I don't care if I don't buy the deal. I legitimately do not care if I get the deal. But if I want to buy a deal, I want to make sure it's a good deal. And I want to buy it for today's numbers because I'm taking on risk, right? I just gave you the 3 risks I'm taking on, right? Risk 1, maybe if I go from project-based to voucher-based, I might lose half my tenants. Maybe half the tenants leave, right? They can go anywhere they want, right? And now I have to lease up this apartment. And then even if maybe Section 8 gets defunded, right? It gets less money, right? With the president and what the changes they're making, all the cuts they're making. Maybe they're going to cut back on Section 8 housing, right? That's another risk I'm going to take, right? Number 3 is if I do convert everyone to voucher, I'm at the mercy of Section 8, right? If they give me a rigorous inspection, I can't do anything, right? I have to comply or I don't get paid, right? So like that's another risk, right? And they seem like they're challenging already. That's another risk. And then so number 4 is maybe I can't lower my capex expense because Section 8 is difficult, right? So these are all the risks that I'm taking. So that's why you have to make sure you buy right. So my rosy end is 2.8 to $3 million. My worst case scenario I have is $2 million pro forma. So I better buy it at $1.4 million. That's why I'm mitigating for all these risks that I'm buying. That's how I make my offer. So that's really what it is. So if I can get it for 2.4 million or 1.4, it could be a killer deal for me. So bad deal for the guy who bought it, right? So that's why I told the brokers, I'm like, the dentist, he owns it. I'm like, how come he doesn't do all this? It sounds easy. Like he can convert from project-based to voucher-based and then lower his expenses. But he said that he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to take the money, whatever money he has. He probably bought this 50 unit for tax write-off purposes, right? I already know it. He bought it for 2.2. You do a cost segregation study. You write off $700,000 of income. And if you're assuming you're at a 50% tax bracket, which maybe his dental office is, he probably got back $350,000 of taxable money. And then, the next year he did another depreciation. So maybe that's why he doesn't care for selling for a loss because he already got his money via depreciation, right? So, and all the tax savings that he got. So I know that. So I'm like, okay, I can go even lower. Maybe I'll just play the long game and wait. And it was interesting. Usually when I made that offer at 1.4 million, what I was expecting the broker to say was, oh no, we got offers better than that at 1.7 and we turned it down. I was expecting him to say that. The fact that they didn't say, oh no, we have better offers, tells me that they're desperate. So just stand to your price, stay firm, take your time, do due diligence, and then, just wait and see what happens. Maybe they'll meet me at 1.7 if it makes sense, or maybe we'll do 1.5 or 1.6, right? That's the whole part of negotiations. And even if this deal falls through, I'll just tell them, hey, if you find a deal in Oklahoma, let me know. Let me know. I'm interested, right? I could take down the deal. And they know I could because they saw my personal financial statement. They saw my track record. They saw the equity I have in my deals. So I said, bring me a deal. If you got a good one, bring it to me. So, I'll keep you guys posted, but, not too optimistic, but just wanted to share my journey, my mindset in making offers. And this is what's beautiful about once you get to the point where you own real estate, like 52 units like myself, like you just let the numbers speak for themselves. Like I'm not emotionally attached. I'm not desperate to buy units. Like whatever. If it's a great deal, I'll buy it. If it's not a great deal, I'm fine as it is. Right? I'm fine as it is. I don't need any more deals. If it's not amazing. So that's what's great. So and that's what I explained to him. Like I'm not desperate to buy a deal, but if it's an amazing deal, I'll buy it. Otherwise, whatever. So anyways, let me know what questions you have. If you want to join my mentorship program, check the links down below. You can email me for a discount code. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.